This is Representative Stefanik, and she's calling out the presidents of Harvard, MIT, and Penn. She's actually asking them, grilling them to say that the genocide of Jews, she's asking them, is calling for the genocide of Jews, harassment and bullying according to their codes of conduct. Watch this.
Dr. Kornbluth, yes. At MIT, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate MIT's code of conduct or rules regarding bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
If targeted at individuals, not making public statements.
Yes or no? Calling for the genocide of Jews does not constitute bullying and harassment?
I have not heard calling for the genocide for Jews on our campus.
But you've heard chants for intifada.
I've heard chants, which can be anti-Semitic depending on the context, when calling for the elimination of the Jewish people.
So those would not be according to the MIT's code of conduct or rules?
That would be investigated as harassment if pervasive and severe.
Ms. McGill, at Penn, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment, yes.
I am asking specifically calling for the genocide of Jews. Does that constitute bullying or harassment?
If it is directed and severe or pervasive, it is harassment.
So the answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Jews is depending upon the context. That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. McGill. So is your testimony that you will not answer yes?
If the
yes or no?
If the speech becomes conduct, it can be harassment, yes.
Conduct meaning committing the act of genocide? The speech is not harassment? This is unacceptable, Ms. McGill. I'm going to give you one more opportunity for the world to see your answer. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's code of conduct when it comes to bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be harassment.
The answer is yes. And Dr. Gay, at Harvard, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be, depending on the context.
What's the context?
Targeted as an individual, at an individual.
It's targeted at Jewish students, Jewish individuals. Do you understand your testimony is dehumanizing them? Do you understand that dehumanization is part of anti-Semitism? I will ask you one more time. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
Anti-Semitic rhetoric.
And is it anti-Semitic rhetoric?
Anti-Semitic rhetoric, when it crosses into conduct that amounts to bullying, harassment, intimidation, that is actionable conduct, and we do take action.
So the answer is yes, that calling for the genocide of Jews violates Harvard Code of Conduct, correct?
Again, it depends on the context.
It does not depend on the context. The answer is yes, and this is why you should resign. These are unacceptable answers across the board.
Okay, so, a lot of people are very upset about this testimony. A lot of people are really upset about at the answers that these presidents gave of saying basically it depends. And that, as much as you might not like it, was actually the right answer. And really what we should be upset about is the fact that these university presidents tend to be so hypocritical in that what we've seen over the years, and one of the biggest arguments about universities, one of the biggest criticisms of universities these days has been that they don't allow free speech anymore, that they don't like anything they don't agree with or anything they consider to be hate speech. They want to silence, they want to censor. They say we're looking to create safe spaces for our students and they need to feel safe. And if they feel like they're not safe because of the views of the other students, then we have to ban those views or we have to ban the speech of those views. And that has been heavily criticized over the last couple of years. Suddenly, these presidents decide to be on the side of free speech. Suddenly, they're on the side of free speech. And interestingly, it's the free speech warriors who are mad about it. You got people like Bari Weiss, who's upset, saying, oh my gosh, like, look at the answers of these presidents. Like, crazy. You're seeing Eric Weinstein upset about it. Elon Musk even mentioned, oh, this is, he tweeted about it, agreeing that these presidents should resign. They shouldn't work here, or that this is shameful, that this is, of course, that actually Elon said that, yes, obviously it does constitute bullying and harassment. No, it doesn't actually. Now, it might be an abhorrent view. First of all, again, students were not calling for genocide of Jews. That is not what was going on. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, they were. Let's say they actually were chanting really horrific, abhorrent statements such as genocide of Jews or genocide of any group of people. That in and of itself, if it's not directed at an individual, if it's a protest or if it's a demonstration, it isn't actually harassment and bullying. I grew up in the state of Idaho. They had neo-Nazi parades up north. No one went to those parades. The ACLU, back when it was actually a good organization fighting for free speech, actually defended their right to have their parade go through the city where they waved swastikas and they held ethno-nationalist ideology that did constitute potentially even genocide. And the flags they waved actually represented real genocide that actually happened against the Jewish people. And yet, because of free speech, we allowed them to have their little parades. So as long as they were not actually harassing and bullying individuals, so as long as they were not showing up on, let's say, a Jewish family's yard on their lawn and starting to chant at them that we think you should be massacred, as long as they weren't actually committing acts of bullying and harassment, their constitutional right to free speech was protected. Now, some people will argue and say, yeah, but Kim, the Constitution is the Constitution. We're talking about universities and we're talking about students. Of all the places in the country, a university should be the place that should be the freest when it comes to thoughts and speech and ideas. This is where kids go to toss around all of their ideas. Many of them are dumb, and they figure that out as they're in college and debating with their friends, and they might even throw out outlandish ideas just to get a reaction or just to go through the process of debating and just go through the process of playing out what that scenario looks like, that whatever it is they're debating, whatever it is that they're advocating for, whatever governmental system or economic system or society or whatever it is that they want to argue for or be for. College is the place that we want to promote for all ideas to be exchanged, especially the really insane ones or the really abhorrent ones. Just let them hash it out and let them debate it out. That is when they're going to, that is what universities really should be about. And what we should be the most offended by is the fact that for so long, universities recently have been squashing all kinds of debate and squashing free speech and creating safe spaces. And now you've got all these people that were the very people, the very intellectual dark web people, free speech warriors who were all about an exchange of ideas, even bad ones. Now suddenly, and they were making fun of students, woke students who wanted safe spaces. And now these very same people have suddenly become woke and wanting safe spaces. Or, oh, you're hurting the feelings. They're interpreting your slogan as if you're wanting to kill them and their people, even though you're saying that's not what you mean by your slogan. It doesn't matter what you think you mean or what you say you mean. We know what you really mean. And so because of that, my feelings, I'm scared and I need a safe space. Again, once it turns into actual harassment and bullying, if students were to actually go and truly harass an individual, that is actually not covered, not even by the Constitution. That is already an action that is illegal no matter where you are. And if somebody were to commit a crime, that would be handled through the mechanisms that are in place that have nothing to do with the university's code of conduct. So to demand that a university has a separate code of conduct that is different, that creates safe spaces for students who feel harassed when no one is actually harassing them, that is what people have been making fun of them about. And yet here they are now suddenly upset that these presidents have found a desire to have free speech.